following message is transmitted.
All right, welcome back to the Order of Chaos podcast. Today, my guest is my good friend Nicole Luna from Modern Magic Salem. Nicole, it's always wonderful to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Nicole will be giving a guest lecture here at TOC this Thursday, September 12th, and the course is going to be on developing psychic awareness. So today what we're going to be talking about is what is that? What is psychic development? What it is, what it isn't. Let's see if we have the same ideas about this or conflicting ideas, because I know that I'm a little bit weird about it. So I'll let you go ahead, but tell me what is psychic awareness to you? What is psychic development?
Well, I think that psychic development is honing in on the existing skills that you already have, because I do believe that everybody has intuitive abilities and we're born with psychic ability, and really refining those so that you can get messages that you can apply to your life and potentially other people's lives.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think that we all have a tremendous amount of psychic ability and awareness and intuition that we disregard, that we're taught to disregard throughout our lives. Pete Carroll calls this the psychic filter, right? Where you've got to kind of like turn off your filter just to gain that awareness of what's already there. The one thing that I kind of look at and I'm like, oh, I roll my eyes at is this idea of like psychic superpowers, which has become super popular on TikTok and all those. I just see a bunch of scam artists.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree. I think that, like much else in the spiritual and magical community, there's that kind of showmanship that can come out of psychics and giving readings and that sort of thing. And usually I find, like, at least for me in my practice and in my work, my psychic ability is not, anything that feels over the top. It comes very naturally to me, and through my practice and through the way that I've developed my skill, it's just become very, very personal. And that makes it a little bit of a tough topic to teach on, to be quite honest with you, but one that's really exciting because when working in a group with people, it's always nice to see how people are getting information and to kind of help them figure out what's going to work best for them.
Yeah. I feel like the point of developing your psychic abilities, or being a reader, for example, it's all about helping people improve their lives. I don't see how you could improve your life with the ability to move tinfoil with the push of your hand. I don't, I would much rather go get a reading from, I've gotten readings from you personally that have like really helped me, really helped me in when I was going through hard times. That is so valuable, but it's hard to demonstrate to other people. You can't like put it on a shelf, but that's okay, because I think that what is important in this space is within the magical space, within the psychic space, the most important thing is integrity and sincerity, because without those, boom, you're just in that whole world of psychic scams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's really nice that we have tools also that can help support what we're picking up. So I never advise people to just purely use their psychic ability without maybe cross-referencing. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, a Virgo moon, so I like to use tools like tarot cards and astrology to kind of add that depth and layer to the information that I'm being given when I'm doing readings. But I think that like a really great starting point for people is to just kind of figure out what already is coming up for them. So whether, looking at maybe the different clairs and how people are connecting with their intuition in the first place, I think that's a great starting point for most people.
Yeah, I fully agree again. I think that people have a tremendous amount of inner knowing that we're just, it's like we don't trust it. You don't know how to trust it. So I think a huge part of developing your psychic abilities is learning to trust yourself, right?
Yeah.
Learning to trust your gut. And so I'm with you. Astrology and tarot are the ways in which I focus all of my readings. However, I'll tell you, I have been to two mediums who were just total, no tools mediums, and both of them blew me away. I mean, one of them, this what happened is, so I've been to mediums with friends, like as a support person, a number of times, but I wasn't ready because I lost my dad when I was 12, and I was just like, I'm not, no, 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 I don't want to do that, right? um and on many occasions, the person who was doing the reading would look right at me and say, there's someone that wants to talk to you, and I'd be like, I'm out of here, nope, not doing it, right? This is when I was much younger. So then when I was ready, when I was in my 30s, and I was really starting to practice magic in a spiritual way, because prior to that I had been practicing like the mind model, the psychological model of magic. I didn't believe so much in spirit. That's totally different now. um but when I did go see those two mediums, both of them like allowed me to have a conversation with my father, and it was just, oh, right. So I
Yeah.
know that that level of development is there, but I also know that I'm personally a tools person.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm also a practicing medium, so I have like the psychic and spirit world kind of intertwined. So it can be hard to know, I think sometimes. And I think with a lot of people when they're developing their psychic ability, where you stop and spirit starts.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's like a really good place to kind of begin with people is by, really tapping into your own inner compass, to guide intuitive messages that you're giving people, but then to also know the difference between maybe what is coming from your higher self versus a
Mhm.
spirit or a spirit influence. Because yeah, it can feel very confusing at times. So I love to like encourage people and teach people about how to use their body to lean into answers, how to, do things like automatic writing in session or for themselves, and just generally how to like clear your mind of your personal bias in order to pick up what the truth really is. Um, and as magical practitioners, there's a lot of things that we can do to set ourselves up for success with this. Protection workings, of course, and then also ways that we can cue our higher self to know that it's time to deliver those messages.
Yeah, for sure. Something that I feel a lot of people struggle with in the beginning, because I get this question a lot, is how do I discern my intuition from my anxiety? Right.
Hmm.
And I remember struggling with that many years ago myself. How do I know which one is which? And it's really in bookmarking the feeling of each one,
Hmm.
because if you don't know, you don't know. But through practice and through guidance and development, you can start to say, oh, okay, there are subtle differences. I think a big one is, for me, anxiety has that twinge of fear to it. That true intuition, when you really know, there is no fear there. It's just, you might have some um self-doubt, but it's not fear.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I've told people that anxiety or intuition feels like a whisper and anxiety feels like a shout. So it can
Yeah.
very much feel like, alarm systems going off, or another way to kind of know if is this an intuitive hit that I'm getting about something in my life versus me being paranoid or me worrying about something, is how often are you returning to it? Does it feel like an obsessive sort of moment? Do you continue to kind of worry about it or ask for reassurance from people about it? To me, that is usually a sign that what you're experiencing is more likely an anxious or worrying thought. Whereas an intuitive hit to me is like almost like that still small voice that lives within you, and it's just kind of an inner knowing, maybe that's supported by people in your life talking about the topic, or you kind of running into situations where you can't help but also receive outside kind of influences that help to support the message that you're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, looking for those synchronicities, right? Looking for things that line up. So what are the topics that you're going to be going over in this class?
So I am going to be discussing a little bit about how to set yourself up for success through protecting your energetic field, how to meditate, especially in, you know, this day and age. I feel like meditation is so crucial and so important. And I notice a significant shift in my ability when I'm not meditating versus when I have been. But I think it's really important that we talk about what meditation looks like. And for me, it's certainly not sitting in a cross-legged position, you know, closing my eyes and trying hard not to think about anything. I think we have a very limited view of what that even looks like. So definitely talking about some different forms of meditation that can be very successful and helpful for people. Also, I want to talk about empaths and how that energy can influence your own intuitive ability, and also just how to clear your energy effectively, because I feel like so often we're just walking around little sponges, kind of like absorbing everybody's stuff, and that is a surefire way to burn yourself out spiritually, so we don't want that. And then, you know, another thing, for a lot of folks, they're looking for these really big signs to clarify and confirm that the information they're getting is accurate. And I want to help people find tools that are going to work for them, whether that be asking spirit to give them very clear signs and symbols that they can lean into during a session, either for themselves or for others, you know, or potentially using some tools. And then, you know, one other thing I wanted to kind of talk about is how to effectively give a reading to people, because I've actually found through my practice as a professional psychic that oftentimes what can happen, and spirit has a funny way of you know, working this way, is that you end up doing readings for people who are going through similar things that you're going through. And that can be
Yes.
a very, yeah, I know you probably experienced that as well.
Yeah.
But that can be a very powerful way of leaning into the messages for yourself, and kind of recognizing that, like, oh shit, you know, all of those
Yeah.
all those things that I would thought that I was getting for me are actually, yeah, definitely for me.
So you're touching on a topic right now that I love to talk about in my classes. And my classes are all, you know, you might come to one of my classes expecting kind of the typical this, and I almost always go in another direction because that's how I think about things. But you know, what something I love to talk about is the mirror, right? That reality is a mirror, no matter what, right? You and I are two separate people, but because of the way our brains interpret and create reality, we are seeing reflections of each other in the other person. And you're always going to attract people who are going through similar things to you because you need that mirror. This is something that I think about all the time, and that I'm giving readings and I'm like, man, this is advice I should take. I got to do this, you know,
Yeah,
or you know, oh my gosh, my client's going. That's how I empathize with my client. Like, wow, I'm going through something very similar, and I'm
right.
not going to talk about myself during the reading, but I know what they're going through, and I can relate it to something that I've been through, or maybe something I've already gone through, and I can help them with. But that principle of the mirror is such a huge part of my practice, and I think that it is at the real heart of what divination is, going all the way back to our earliest ancestors who all had magical practices and divination practices. We called them signs and omens, right? But those signs and omens are a reflection of your inner world, which is informing you about your outer world. You know, and I love talking about this, and I love that principle becomes so evident throughout your journey, because I think that a spiritual journey, a journey into psychic development, you're just getting one piece of the puzzle at a time, and each piece is very, very exciting. When I got to that piece about the mirror, I was so blown away, and everything came together, and it totally radically changed my practice.
Yeah, and I think that when people are able to find what works for them and kind of see it show up in real time, and what it usually ends up being, at least for me, it was very much in the form of helping others and giving others guidance, and seeing those people really that guidance making a difference in their life.
Yeah.
Like, that is such confirmation for what's going on. And then, you know, I think I'll probably also want to talk a little bit about how developing your intuition expands other gifts, because I personally don't believe that you can do this work without spirit. So I think that for a very long time, I dug my heels in the sand about connecting with dead people. I was like, never gonna happen. Bring me all the
Mm.
goddesses, bring me all, like, you know, I just don't want to talk to dead people. But when you're working with people and you're working with human emotion, right? And your intuition, you're going to pick up on, everything that's affected the person, including people who have passed away, including their spirit team, their deities that they're working with. And that, I think, is what takes you from, just simply guiding people and giving people like practical advice and potentially like information about the future that you are feeling is going to happen, to like a really profound dynamic reading that's going to give people like a purpose and a pathway forward to go ahead and achieve their goals that are present for them in the future. So it's not just about predicting and giving like very like clear answers, but giving a pathway and also like what those influences are going to include for them on their journey.
Yeah. Gosh, I was in a similar place. So, story time. I was reading tarot at the Toronto, I think it was the Toronto Pagan Festival. I think it was actually happening in Hamilton, but this is a number of years ago, and I had no interest in mediumship. I was like, that's not what I do. I talk to my spirit guides talk to your spirit guides, and I relay the information through the cards. But a woman came up who was like, I have a friend who passed away a few weeks ago. Can you please try to connect? And I was like, I couldn't say no. I said, I've never done this before. I will try. I'll do my best. And if it's nonsense, I won't charge you. And I apologize. Right. And so I drew the cards and I did my best. And I had the justice card there. And I was like, and I told her, but like, honestly, I have no idea why the justice card is here in this reading. It doesn't make sense. I'm so sorry. And then she starts tearing up and I'm like, what? I'm sorry. Right. And she's like, no, my friend was a lawyer.
Oh yeah. See?
And so that was the moment that I learned that when you're doing mediumship work, especially through tarot, the person that you're communicating with, they don't know the meanings of the tarot cards. They're going to use the imagery.
Yes,
Right. So
you're
that was a
right.
huge lesson right there. But then also, and I felt in that moment, and it's never gone away. If you're doing this kind of work, spirit is going to want to talk through you. They're going to be somewhat pushy about it. It's very difficult to avoid this.
Yeah.
And to shut it out is a mistake.
Yeah. And I think when you said you don't mind, like you didn't mind the idea of connecting with people's guides and that sort of thing, it's like all that feels really good until like you connect that you realize was potential. I mean, this doesn't happen all the time, so I want to make that pretty clear to your listeners, but it's possible for somebody who's deceased to become a spirit guide.
Mhm.
And when you start to realize that like spirit is just, they're all connected, right? Like it's all just different like layers, right? It feels so much less scary that way. Because yeah, I really had it in my head that like there was something so different about dead people that was just going to feel so
Yeah, it's all the same. I mean,
yeah.
I do think that so the way that I talk about this, the way I teach it is that we are here in the third dimension. And because I like to base everything I talk about on science. That's kind of my shtick here. But string theory says that there's 11 dimensions of time and space, or 11 dimensions of physical reality. We live in the third dimension. Be it fourth or fifth, the one above us depends on whether or not you consider time a spatial dimension or not. So it really doesn't matter, right? Let's say the next dimension up. Let's say it's the fourth dimension. Well, that's the spirit realm. But what is the spirit realm? The spirit realm is like a jello, like a layered jello of the mental plane, the dream plane, the astral plane, and the spirit plane. They're all connected into this thing that I would refer to as the fourth dimension, and they're doorways to each other, and they're inseparable.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good way of explaining it. Yeah.
Yeah, because like it's like the doorway. Like if you want to astral project, you got to learn to lucid dream first, because the dream plane is the doorway to the astral realm, and the astral realm is like the next step to the true spirit realm. But we can communicate with spirit from here just fine. But understanding the layers makes it all make a little more sense.
It makes sense, and it unlocks the capability to like tap into that on demand.
Mhm.
So I think most people are doing it. Like the lucid dreaming thing is one great example, because I think a lot of people would hear that and be like, "Oh, that sounds so interesting." And if they were to actually like find out what it is, the majority of people have had a lucid dream
Oh
before.
yeah.
It's something that just happens, right?
Mhm.
But it's about acknowledging when it's happening, knowing how to potentially work with that a little bit further.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't think that, I don't think that there's ever really a case where somebody couldn't really turn on their psychic ability. It's just about practice and trust at the end of the day. It's about really trusting what's coming through and just giving it a shot and letting your person across from you or yourself kind of know what's coming through and allowing that information to guide your life and to see what happens when you do.
Yes, and something that comes through right away, which I think is it's almost like you get the very best thing first, which I think is
Mhm.
true with a lot of kind of magical practices. The moment you really start to open up to these ideas, you will experience an increasing degree of synchronicity until the point where it's almost overwhelming. Right. And
Mhm.
I've heard that from so many people. It happened to me. And then there's like sorting it all out and the nuance of it. It comes after that.
Mhm.
So like
Yeah.
you get that right away. Something that comes later that's crucial is learning how to react in these situations. So here's an example. Lucid dreaming that you achieve through meditation is different than lucid dreaming that happens on accident while you're sleeping. Very, very, very different. I've only had one instance of accidental lucid dreaming while I was actually asleep, and the moment I realized I was dreaming, and again, this is wild because this is a story that you'll read all over the place. It happens to a lot of people. The moment you realize you're dreaming and it wasn't intentional, everyone in the dream will turn on you. And it's like all of a sudden, not that they're out to get you, but it's like everyone's attitude changes. Like they're looking at you like he knows, you know?
Mm. Mhm.
And I had that very vivid experience. But then during a lucid dreaming that was intentional, that I was going through meditation to have this experience, it was a very controlled experience. Right.
Mhm.
So, and then there's gosh, when you're doing spirit communication, this is the thing that I tell all my students, and I say it 3 times every time because I want them to hear me. Do not just be willing to connect to any old spirit, especially if you're new at this. You got to have a target spirit and only be willing to communicate with that spirit, because when you go into that meditative space and you're crossing the boundary between third and fourth dimension, it's like there's an open sign that goes on over your head. And there's
Mhm.
plenty of trickster spirits out there, or it's I think malevolent spirits are less common than people think they are, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there's like transient spirits that are just like, I wonder what's going on over there, that you might not want to have a conversation with, or you know, restless spirits that maybe you don't want to deal with. So knowing how to block that out and communicate with whom you want to talk to, and know that you're communicating with the right person or entity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also just knowing your own spirit team really, really well helps
Yeah.
with your own psychic development, because if you can establish really clear guidance system and communication, maybe it's just one spirit guide that you're working with, or maybe it's a god or a goddess that you're just, is going to come through for you to help you. You're going to have a protocol that you set up where you call on them for support, you channel or you tune in. And of course, sometimes, and we'll talk about this in the class as well, there can be some things that are very supportive, whether that's tools or even herbs or things like that, that can really help clear, the pathway so that you can receive that information in a clearer way. And of course, life happens, and sometimes our channels are not the clearest, and sometimes we have to do a lot of clearing work before we can feel connected to our intuition again. Um, certainly mental illness can affect things as well. So, I'm going to tread lightly on this topic. It's something that's super duper important to me because it's my work. But everyone can be psychic. How often we should be doing this work, how we should prepare ourselves, and before and after, there's it's not super easy in that way.
No, it's not. And it's, you know, spiritual psychosis is a real thing. And I've seen people go through it.
Mhm.
This is why I'm saying you need to be open, but open in a very controlled way. And this is why guidance and classes are important, because you could have a spiritual experience, and this has happened throughout history. You have one profound spiritual experience, you think it applies to everyone else, and you run off and start a cult. and you
Yeah.
don't even know that you're starting a cult, and then these things twist you, and then all of a sudden you've got these horrifying situations, or you develop a religion, or then your intentions move into more of a maintaining power and control than having a spiritual experience seems to be very common. um and I'm not trying to be mean to anybody here when I say this, but like if you have one profound spiritual experience and then you come to me saying I am Archangel Michael, I'm gonna be like, yo, whoa,
Yeah.
let's reel it back a little bit,
Yeah.
but that
I
happened.
think it does happen. Mental health and the ego, all of those things, we really need to check where we're at.
Yeah.
And that ego, of course, can serve what's actually coming through as an intuitive hit versus our personal bias, what we think is best to inform our client of or ourselves. We can really keep ourselves in the dark for a long time. We can lie to ourselves and call it intuition. So we
Yes,
got to
we
be
can.
careful. Hmm.
And in my journey, it's always been so important to me to because I'm a double Leo, and I'm aware that this is totally a possibility, like not to let my ego go out of control.
Hmm.
And then at the same time, so I mean, I feel like once you're on a spiritual journey, when you've had these interactions, that balance between ego and whatever else, whatever you want to call it, becomes more and more and more difficult. One thing that I can't stand to see, it really kind of hurts my heart in the overall spiritual community, is how many people are like, oh, I'm one of the chosen ones. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Like, you're not spiritual. Having a spiritual connection does not make you better than other people, and that's certainly not the point. No bodhisattva ever walked around saying, oh, I can talk to spirits, so I'm better than you. But how many people are doing that on Facebook?
Hmm.
Thousands every day. I see it.
Hmm.
And so I understand fully that these experiences are powerful, but don't fool yourself into thinking that it means that you're the messiah,
Yeah.
right? Like, it means that you've achieved something that we're all meant to achieve, and now you've got a lot of work to do in terms of like, how do I, it's like when you get Play-Doh for the first time as a kid, it's like, I can do this, and then like, okay, well, what are you gonna do with it? You can either smush it all into the carpet and your parents have to buy a new carpet, or you could like become a Play-Doh architect.
Yeah. I think all the magical, psychic, all of the spiritual things that we can really hone in on are so connected to like art and creativity
Yeah.
and the way that that works. We certainly can go through times of heightened creativity and expression where our, personal intuitive gifts are just like supercharged and everything we're getting is just hitting, and like that can feel so good, and
Yeah.
certainly times of the year where it can even be just easier to connect. I think that that's also crucial, is like riding that wave and understanding that if there's times where things are not coming through in a super clear way, that it could be spirit's opportunity, or it's an opportunity for you from spirit to turn the gift inward, or potentially turn the gift outward. Because, a lot of folks need to do that too.
Yes. So
Mhm.
here's a question for you. If For the people who are thinking about attending this class, what is it that you want to emphasize that they will personally get out of it?
Yeah, so I'm really hoping that people will get out of this class some great information on how to continue to tap in and refine your personal psychic abilities. I also hope that people will feel more empowered to go out there and start kind of giving their psychic gifts a try, whether that be with clients or friends. I also want to really clearly outline how important it is to have a good cleansing and protecting practice. So hopefully people will be able to refine that as part of what they take away from the class. And then I also want people to walk away just feeling more clear about their gifts, how to apply them, and how to also seek out spiritual counsel, what to look for in a psychic, for example, I think would be
Yes.
something I'd really like to speak to. in this class.
Yes, how to look for someone, and like I said, what you're looking for, it's sincerity and integrity. It's not
Yeah.
flashiness. It's not watch me move this object with my mind, which I
Mhm.
think, I like as a chaos magician, I know that the belief has a tremendous amount of effect over reality. It's the core of my practice, but I don't believe in the force as much as I would love to. Like I'm a Star Wars fanatic. I love Star Wars. I just even if you could, like, okay, let's say even if you could make a pencil roll across the table, what are you gonna do with that?
Yeah.
You're gonna post it on TikTok. That's what you're gonna do. And no one will believe you. I don't believe any of those that I see on TikTok because I know you can do that. You just have someone behind the table with a blow dryer and boom, there you go. Right.
Mhm.
It's not going to change your life in a profound way. It's not going to help you make better decisions. It's not going to help you with your business or your life or your love life. None of that. It's watch the pencil move. Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. I just
Yeah.
so I don't believe in it, but even if I did, like, who cares? That's my
Yeah.
point of view. And a lot of people disagree with me. A lot of people are like, no, but I can make the pencil move. And I'm like, okay, okay.
Yeah, I think, with especially psychic development is like one of the core foundational sort of skills that I think any good magical practitioner should really devote time to learning. I'm not saying all magical practitioners have to identify as being psychics or do readings or anything like that, but like when it comes to establishing a really powerful magical practice where you're going to be able to understand how to turn your will into your reality, there is this key role that your intuition is going to be playing in that, especially in how to go about manifesting, right? Getting those
Yes.
messages on, how to make it happen. What
Yeah.
even what particular magical practice is going to make it happen, right? Listening for those cues and knowing when you're connecting with spirit. I mean, I know there's a lot of more agnostic or kind of, atheist practitioners out there. But I think whether you believe in energy or spirit or whatever you would call it, the connection is vital when it comes to having a successful magical practice.
I fully agree. And I'm one of those people. This is a meme you'll see, but I really agree with it. You can talk about quantum physics, you can talk about consciousness, you can talk about spirit. You're talking about the same thing. But energy is different words for the same thing, the same ineffable, undefinable, very mysterious thing that we don't fully understand. No matter what lens you look through, it really doesn't matter. Pick the one that works for you. There is an underlying non-physical something that makes things happen and move in this world. And there's
Mhm.
a million different ways to experience this, but it's very real. And we've known about this since the dawn of time. We've had 100 different ways of explaining it, right? This is what every magical practice is to me. It's like a different language, right?
Mhm.
But language, the concept of language, there's an underlying concept of communication, and that's what I'm talking about. And it's very hard to describe,
Mhm.
but it's there. And
Oh yeah.
that's at the essence of all of it, right? So, I talk a lot about physics in my courses, and I'll talk a lot about the power of mindset, but that's what magic is to me.
Mhm.
And to touch on what you were just saying, because this is so very, very important. A lot of people give up on magic because they think that magic will deliver something to them. Okay,
Mhm.
now that's not how it works. Sometimes it is, right? I had an experience where I desperately needed a new bed, and literally someone mistakenly delivered a new bed to my house. Sometimes stuff like that happens, okay? But most of the time that you do magic, especially as you become more serious as a practitioner, what ends up happening is that you get a teeny little sliver of divine inspiration, and then you have to follow through with it. And if you listen to that little sliver of intuition or divine inspiration, then big things will come of it. But if you ignore it, if you don't follow through, if what good is divine inspiration without divinely inspired action? Is what I guess what I'm saying. Right. So it's
Yeah.
not all about a pile of money being delivered to your doorstep, though sometimes that is what happens. Most of the time, magic changes something inside of you that allows you to change your behavior slightly. And that slight behavioral change pays off in a big way.
Yeah, I agree. Mhm.
Yeah. All right, well, that's about all we've got time for today. It was awesome speaking with you. I'm super excited for the class. I know I'm going to learn a ton. I'm very excited for everyone who's coming. So if you would like to attend, the link will be in the description. If you would like to get a ticket, tickets are $25. Or if you'd like to join up with the Order of Chaos Occult University, you get a free access to all of our guest lectures. Likewise, buy a ticket to this guest lecture and we'll give you a free month at the Occult University. So I'm excited to see y'all there. Nicole, it's been awesome. And I will see you on Thursday.
All right. See you then.
Bye, everybody.